Hear me? Hi. If you guys can hear me, just drop in the chat on a scale of 1 to 10. Hi. How ready you guys are for the AP Psych exam. Anyone? Solid 1. Yeah. It's not really something to stress out too much about. So tonight we're going to just run through some exam tips and resources, and then when I'm done, you guys can ask me about any questions you guys have for the exam, and then we'll just go through that. So yeah, 1 second, let me set this up. So just move here into the PowerPoint. You see? Okay. Can you guys see the PowerPoint? Should be up. Let me check. I'm sorry. This is my first time doing one of these. Okay. All right. So you guys, we're just gonna run through some general things. You guys can follow Fiveable on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at ThinkFiveable. And then I also added my Instagram handle, which is at BellaBlutiful, and you guys are welcome to shoot me any questions you have on there. So we'll just run through some general strategies. So for the multiple choice, in general, I recommend that you make sure you read through all of your answer choices and not let a difficult question slow you down. Watch out for extreme all or never answer choices and similar answer options, because generally speaking, if one answer choice is a lot like the other, and they're probably one's not really better than the other one. And for the FRQs, I've structured your answer clearly. In a past live stream, I've seen it mention the acronym Define, Explain, Relate. I highly recommend that. It helps you score the points, and it's pretty simple. Make sure you add psychological terms into the FRQ, and then make sure you don't use the term you're supposed to define in the definition itself, or include an introduction and conclusion, because that just distracts from the time you have to do the question itself, because you only have 25 minutes per FRQ. And then make sure you write in bullet point and outline form. Well, don't write in bullet point and outline form. That won't get you the points. So I also included on here just general like content distribution. I added that in there because you need to make sure that when you're studying, you don't focus too much on the stuff that's like in the 2 to 4% range. When I was studying, I put more emphasis on like the biological basis of behavior and sensation and perception, which are arguably the harder aspects of psychology. And then towards the end, I have a resource packet. So basically I added on, let me see here, it's loading. I added a cram packet that I use to study for the test. It's pretty simple and something you can look over in a few days before it. I also have some flashcards for psychology, some visual study guides, a list of some psych mnemonics. I have the AP Psychology crash course book on there. And then I have some links to some Quizlet questions, some Quizlet practice flashcards. There's at least 600 flashcards in each of the sets. I use them to study for my exam, and they're pretty helpful. And I also linked to some practice tests. I have the Barron's practice tests on there, and I also linked to the College Board's webpage where they have the 1994 and 1999, I believe, tests on there. So make sure you go through those and practice some FRQs as well. So yeah, that's it. Let me see what questions you guys have. Yeah, there is a lot of units. But they're really, I mean, when there's only like 2 to 4% of the exam is like history and approaches, that only amounts to like 2 questions, so it's pretty easy. So we have, what do you think is the hardest part about AP Psych? I think the hardest part about AP Psychology for me was the brain and behavior section and the treatment of psychological disorders. So, because those aren't really intuitive. Some of psychology is kind of intuitive, like the social psychology unit and stuff like that. So it's pretty hard. So what do you think you should dedicate the most time to? That's a good question. I recommend that when you're studying psychology that you dedicate the most time to the units that you're struggling with the most. So if you're going to start studying around like spring break or so, like I did for the AP Psych exam, just take a diagnostic exam. And then based on your score from that, focus in on the units that you didn't get the answers correct for. So do we have any other questions? How are you guys doing? What strategies did I use? For strategies, I basically used my prep book and I would go through it and I would annotate the sections of the test, not sections, test. I would annotate the chapters that I was struggling with and highlight key terms. And I would also go through on Quizlet and just do like the Quizlet like learn thing. And so it would like show you the term and then I would write the definition because a lot of psychology is terminology. And if you have the terms down, it's really pretty easy to get a 5 on. So yeah, psych is pretty straightforward. It's, yeah, so just, you see. I'm currently self-studying for this AP exam. What review book did you use? Is the multiple choice the easier section? Yeah, I use the Barron's review book, and if you're self-studying, I highly recommend the Barron's review book. There's all they have, the Barron's has like all of the stuff in there that you need to know. It's a little bit extra if you're taking the class. You might just want to stick to like maybe just like the crash course book or something. And the multiple choice is probably the easiest section of it. I mean, it's pretty much on the FRQs is a little bit harder because you have to recall it off the top of your head. On psychology's multiple choice section, you can pretty much rule out the wrong answers easier. So is it easier compared to other AP classes or is it around the same? I would say it is probably a little bit easier than other AP classes because it's not like the other like social studies history ones where you have to apply the information that you've memorized. Psychology is just like pretty much straight up memorization, and on the effort on like the essay portion and on the multiple choice you can just pick the right answer off of that. So how is the FRQ section formatted? So the FRQ section, there's 2 of them, and you have 25 minutes to answer one and then 25 minutes to answer the other one. It'll probably, what they had in mind last year is they'll give you like a scenario and then they'll have like several terms and you have to like apply them to the situation. Like last year, I think it was like someone named Jackie in theater, and then it would have like psych terms like acetylcholine, the neurotransmitter, and it would ask you like how would this help her with her theater practice. So you have to apply some of those terms. And to write those efficiently, I would recommend the acronym I mentioned in my PowerPoint, and I'll post it after the show. It's define, explain, and relate. So you'll define the term, you'll explain it in context for the question, and then you'll try to relate it back to the question, and that should score you all the points you need. So, yeah. How true is it that what people say that AP Psych is basically a big vocab test? I would say that that's pretty accurate. I mean, it does have a little bit of application. Like sometimes they'll ask you like questions about, they'll give you like a description of like something that's wrong with someone and you have to like treat them with like something. So it's kind of calling on your knowledge of both the treatments of disorders and the disorders themselves. But it's basically a vocab test. If you have the terminology down from like practice off of Quizlet, you should be just fine with the test itself. You see here, do we have any other questions? Yeah, I would recommend that when you're studying, you start out with the diagnostic test, then move on to prep book for annotations, and then start on with some Quizlet for stuff that you're struggling with. Have you guys, you see, how long do you suggest for review before the AP exam? That depends. I mean, if you're self-studying, you should probably start now. If you are just studying from a class, probably about I usually started around spring break, so at the start of April is probably good. Maybe a little later if you're feeling pretty confident about it. So it's pretty straightforward exam stuff. Make sure you pace your review time accordingly. See, do we have any other questions? See here. Okay. So do you guys have any more concerns about the test? Any more questions? Any content that you guys are struggling with? Can you show us how to do an FRQ? Sure, let me see. I'll pull up one from a past year. Hold on 1 second. We'll do the screen. Okay. Pull up. We'll just go with the 2018 FRQ since that was the one that I had. You see here? Okay, so I will pull up the first question. So this is an example because there's a couple different types of FRQs. It's 33 and a third % of your total score. So the question is like, Jackie has been chosen for the lead role in the school play. She is both nervous and excited about this opportunity. So what you'll start out with is you go to part A, where it says that you can explain how all of the concepts can like help her performance in the play. You'll pick one. So let's say that I want to, you can generally go in order, but if you don't, just make sure you just underline the term when you're going through it. It's helpful for the grader. So let's say I'm like picking, I remember acetylcholine pretty well. So you'll say that acetylcholine, and you'll define that it's a neurotransmitter that helps with memory and movement. And so when you're talking through it, you'll be like, Jackie has been chosen for her lead role in the school play. So you'll say that acetylcholine can help Jackie both memorize her lines for the play, and it can help her move about the stage. But then you'll want to relate it back to the question. And then for part B, it's pretty much the same thing. You just like define the term. So selective attention or whatever it is, and then relate it back. And then for the bottom, yeah, if they have you draw like a conclusion or something off of the figure, you don't have to obviously do like the definition part. You can just state like, this looks like there's a positive correlation of absences due to illness with the stress level. And then, yeah, it's pretty straightforward. You just answer the questions based off of your knowledge. And if it's a term, make sure that you define it and describe it. So you see, yeah, that looks like pretty much it. I've seen in the past where they've had you like design like an experiment or something like that, but that's pretty rare from what I've seen. Let me see. Okay. So that's the basics of FRQs. Do you guys have any more questions about that? What should we do if we see a question and have no idea what to do? If you see a question, you don't have an idea of what to do, I would recommend that you just, if it's a multiple choice, just pick an answer because you're not going to be penalized for it. And if it's an FRQ, just take your best guess at it. I mean, they're not going to give you the point if you don't answer it, but at least if you try to answer it, you have a shot at it. Psych can be intuitive sometimes. So if you see a term and like you think it knows you think you know what it means, just write on it anyways. They can't punish you for it. And if you don't like what you've written, you can just cross it out and they can't grade that anyways. So yeah, the FRQs are pretty easy. Any more questions? See here. What do you personally believe to be the most challenging in AP Psych? That's actually a great question. I would say that I probably find the unit on like biological basis of behavior to be the most challenging. I struggled a lot with like learning like the systems, like the biology of like the ear and like the eye and like applying them to the test. I was lucky in that it wasn't like a huge part of last year's test, but it can be, I think, like up to 8% of the test. So that's not a lot of multiple choice questions because there are like 100 of them, but it's enough. The brain unit was also a little difficult too because they do have on this exam, they will put up like at least a couple questions on mine, and I'm sure they'll have a couple questions on yours. Is pretty common. They'll have like a picture of like the brain. It'll have like a little arrow up, and then you'll have to identify what portion of the brain that the arrow was pointing to. So that was a little bit difficult too. And then some of the neurotransmitter stuff can get a bit sketchy at times. So yeah, that's about it for that. Have you guys started reviewing for the AP Psychology exam yet? No? Is it doable to score a 5? Do a lot of people usually score a 5? Yeah, I would say it's pretty doable to score a 5. If you start reviewing soon enough and like you're not trying to pull an all-nighter reviewing it, it is pretty easy to score a 5. And usually I think around about 20% of people taking the test get a 5 every year. So yeah, it's pretty easy to score. I've seen, as long as you don't like try to procrastinate too much on studying for it. Just like anyone. Yeah. So you see, I don't really think we have any more questions in here. Have you guys, what unit are you guys on in psych right now? I think I took this class online, so it was pretty quick paced. It was like a semester, so it's not too bad. Low key, don't know at this point. Yeah, that's all right. It's oh, there's a lot of units, so yeah, it's pretty straightforward. Just make sure you guys start practicing soon for the exam. Do we have any more questions about it? No, not yet. You guys started practicing your FRQs yet at all, or not really, maybe? Make sure if you're self-studying that you at least try to practice some FRQs and then either bring them into a teacher if you know a teacher that teaches the subject, or like a psych or social studies in general, or you can just like try to score them yourself off of the College Board's website, which is pretty difficult, but it's doable. So can you please attach the link for the study materials? Absolutely. I will attach, let me see, I will post it in the chat now, and then I'll also post it again after I'm done with my live stream. And then, let me see here. Yeah, so there's basically just like some prep books and cram packets and stuff like that in there. So let me see if it'll share it. Okay, that's the link. I'll post it again in the slides after the show. I used out of that pack, I think I used the cram packet and then the Quizlets. I really like Quizlet for this exam because it is a lot of vocab. But yeah, should be pretty easy. Any more questions, or are we set? Okay, looks like there's not any more questions. Anything else that you guys want me to go over that you guys are struggling with or anything, or we all good? What is the easiest part of AP Psych? Yeah, I would say probably the easiest part for me would be, I think personality was pretty easy, and then history and approaches was straightforward. Same with social psychology. We didn't really get to social psychology in my online class, so I had to pretty much just self-study it for a prep book, and it's really intuitive and easy and interesting. It was also on last year's FRQ. So make sure you balance your study time accordingly. So yeah, that's about it for AP Psych. It's pretty easy to study in conjunction with other tests. Do we have other APs are you taking? I am actually a freshman in college studying history and education. Last year, I took AP World, AP Euro, AP Psychology, AP Language, AP Macroeconomics, and US Government. That was the other one. So it was a lot. You had to balance them pretty well, but I don't know. It's pretty easy. You guys taking a lot of other AP classes? Taking 3. Yeah, that's a bit. Psych is pretty easy, so macro, seminar, and ooh, chemistry's hard. Yeah, macro's a pretty straightforward test as well, as long as you know your material. Yeah. All right. So is that it? Anything else before I close the live stream? What's history and education like? I thought about going and teaching. Oh, I really like history and education. It's a lot of like in-class experience, which is part of the reason why I like it. You get to interact with kids. In my program, I volunteer on Fridays with ELL kids because I'm focusing on like elementary and middle school. But yeah, teaching's a good program. You should go into it if you're interested in it. It's a lot of emotional energy, and it's definitely a bit stressful at times, but I think it's worth it. I'm going to Michigan State for it. So yeah. Okay. Doesn't look like there's any more questions at the minute. So I will post the slides again after the show. Make sure you guys start studying soon, and good luck on your exam. Thanks for coming. Bye.